So welcome to Reliably Republican. Today's guest is Jim DeGraffenreid. He's the National Committeeman from the state of Nevada. Today we're talking to Jim about the big victory that they delivered for President Trump and how they went about working towards that for the past 4 years, and the coordination between the team within the Nevada GOP and the RNC and outside groups. It's an exciting podcast to hear how Nevada produced this victory. So please like, share, and subscribe if you enjoy what you're hearing. Hi, welcome to Reliably Republican. I'm Casey Crosbie, your host, the RNC treasurer, and today I have a very special guest with me. I'm so excited that my good friend from Nevada, the National Committeeman, Jim DeGraffenreid, could be with us today. Jim has a diverse background. He's an EMT, a firefighter, and he owns an independent insurance brokerage firm. So Jim, welcome to Reliably Republican. How are you today?
Great, Casey. Good to be on with you.
Yeah, thank you so much. And, just before we get started, I gave a little bit about you. I always think your background's so interesting. Somebody who's been an EMT and a firefighter and kind of your journey, in your professional life. But how'd you get involved in Republican politics and end up getting on the RNC? Tell us a minute or two about your story and how you ended up here.
Well, we first got involved in the Republican Party back in 2007. We had just moved to Nevada from California, and we were very pleased to be out of California and into a more conservative state. And we got involved in some of the local races there, and that led to me joining the local central committee. And then I just became the secretary of the Nevada Party and then the vice chairman of the Nevada Party. And when there was an opening for National Committeeman, moved up into that as well. So just kind of a progression over time.
Now, remind me, is this your second term? You were just elected again, I know.
Yeah.
Okay, yeah.
Just reelected.
Yeah, I thought I knew you were on the previous term, but I didn't know if you had served 2 full terms. I know your counterpart, your committee woman, came in midway through one of the terms. And, one thing that I have really admired about your party, and, and we have it in Kentucky, but I see you all as being so successful as a group is, the cohesiveness you have with each other and how you work as a team from your chairman, your committee woman, and you. Can you talk a little bit about your relationship and how you've seen that kind of progress? You've served now with at least a different committee woman, but also just, through the years, how, you all have worked together and what that has done for you guys as a state and your party to help you guys grow.
Sure. Yeah, it's been a great thing for us to be able to work together. We look around at some of the other states and see the 3 RNC members not necessarily getting along, and it really makes us appreciate what we have here. Our chairman, Michael McDonald, as you know, is the longest serving chairman on the committee. And so he and I have been serving together since I was the secretary of the party, in fact. And so we have a good relationship. And Segal was Michael's attorney for many, many years. And so it was very easy for her to become a part of the group as well once Michelle Fiore left to become a justice of the peace.
So you guys just had a huge victory for the president. I know we're all very excited, and we were on pins and needles watching Nevada. Tell me a little bit about the work that you guys did to help President Trump. Like, when did it start? I know you guys have been working for 2 years now, 3 years, trying to put plans in place. I mean, obviously, we know that election integrity is a huge piece to this puzzle, but tell us a little bit about the Trump victory, and first of all, how exciting it is, but also sort of what your state did to deliver that for the president.
Well, it's super exciting, Casey, because we didn't, as you know, just work for 2 years at it. We tried to get him elected in Nevada in 2016 while the rest of the country knew that he was the right choice. We didn't get him across the line that year. We obviously tried again in 2020. And so this was our third go around, and we're just as excited as we can be to know that we finally got him across the finish line in Nevada. Part of what went into that was changing our voter registration. Back in 2020, there were 85,000 more Democrats than Republicans in Nevada. And going into this race this time around, we were down to less than 9,000 deficit behind the Democrats. And so that really helped us a lot. what typically happens in a statewide race in Nevada is that the Republican candidate tries to lose Clark County by the smallest amount possible because that's where all of the blue population is. And then the rural counties make up for that as much as possible. And then Washoe County, which is where Reno is the other urban area in the state. They become kind of the swing county in the swing state. This year, because the voter registration was so close, after years of working on that, we were actually able to not have to overcome a deficit of votes in Clark County. President Trump and Vice President Harris were actually very close in Clark County all the way along. And so what the rural counties did is built what we call the rural firewall. And we were 47,000 votes ahead going into Election Day from early voting. And that gave them a wall that they had to climb over instead of the Republicans trying to overcome what had happened in Clark County for early voting. And that just put us on track to win the state by almost 50,000 votes.
Yeah, like you said, you worked on this for years. Tell me a little bit about how the efforts you put into getting these registrations done, because I know we've seen it also in Pennsylvania, Michigan, some of the other swing states where there was a big push on getting voters registered. Can you tell me a little bit about the party? Did you all have outside help, or was it mostly done internally as a function of the party? How did you all manage to make such huge strides really over a short period of time? That's not that long to flip that many people.
Yeah, well, it was a little bit of both. The party obviously does voter registration through both the state and the county parties, but then there are some outside groups as well. Chris Carr is a longtime political person here in Nevada, and he has had outside voter registration drives going on throughout this time. We fell way behind in registration back when Obama was running for president. That was very motivational for the Democrats, and so they were able to really extend that lead. But as time has gone by, we've been able to pull that back, and it's made all the difference.
You mentioned, I know we talked a few minutes before getting on this podcast together, and you had mentioned that, while we had some great success for President Trump, and we're so excited because we were all, like I said, on pins and needles watching some of the swing states come in. You mentioned too that, some of the other races didn't go as well. Can you explain to me, did you find a lot of voters deciding that they were just splitting tickets, or can you explain sort of a little bit more in detail about some of the down ballot races and the analysis you all have done there as a party?
Yeah, we don't have to look too far down the ballot to find some issues. U.S. Senate was something that we really felt like we were going to get in the bag this time around because we had only missed it by a few thousand votes in 2022. But what happened in our U.S. Senate race this time around is we had a very bruising primary, and there wasn't a lot of some of the candidates after the primary that did not win backed the nominee, but other candidates did not. And so then that made it hard for us to get those voters in. Both the president and the Senate had a libertarian and an independent American candidate in their race. Oh. And in Nevada, we also have none of these candidates for both of those races. In the Senate race, there were 20,000 votes that went each to the independent American candidate and to the libertarian candidate, as well as another 40,000 votes that went to none of these candidates. On the presidential side, there was less than 7,000 votes that went to the two third-party candidates and less than 20,000 to none of these candidates. And so it wasn't as much a matter, I think, of ticket splitting. We didn't have Republicans voting for the Democrat as we had people going either to none of the above or to a third-party choice.
Well, it's amazing to me how different some of the states, how their ballots can be. Even like when we hear people talking about same day registration, and we're in Kentucky, and I think you mentioned to me, well, in Kentucky, we're the first state called for President Trump, and I'd be lying if I didn't tell you we're pretty proud of that. That our election ended at 6, and I think it was 8:30, and we were already being called for the president. So we don't have a lot of those issues, but you you talked about the fact that votes had been counted for several days after, and today finally things wrapped up. Tell me a little bit about that and how that all works, because, I know a lot of people don't understand, because like I said, in Kentucky, it's hard for me to understand sometimes how things are done in Nevada versus Michigan or Georgia. So can you comment a little bit about that process and how long it takes before things are finally wrapped up in your state?
Sure. One of the things that came out of the coronavirus situation was that Nevada moved to universal mail-in ballots. We didn't care for that, obviously, as a Republican Party. We had already had no excuse absentee balloting, so anybody for any reason could request an absentee ballot. But a Democrat-controlled legislature said they wanted to mail ballots to everybody in the state. And what they do is allow those ballots to come back in all the way until the Friday after Election Day. And so that ends up being the end of balloting, is that Friday as opposed to Tuesday. Mm-hmm. And that's a real problem, because they don't even require those ballots to be postmarked. As long as that ballot comes in, there's nothing to say that it didn't get mailed on Wednesday or Thursday, and yet it comes in on Friday and then gets counted as a regular ballot. So we fought hard. Actually, that was one of the election integrity things that we did here in Nevada. We filed 2 separate court cases saying that the ballots, first of all, should not be accepted after Election Day. And then the second piece of litigation that we did, was to say that if a ballot came in without a postmark, that it could not be counted, that it had to be postmarked Election Day. One of those cases went to the Nevada Supreme Court, and they upheld the fact that they could come in all the way through Friday regardless. And then the other one about the postmarks is currently before the Ninth Circuit.
Okay. Did you find, you mentioned the lawsuits, and, and I know that that was a big focus of the RNC. And as somebody who watches the legal fund very closely, I know we were active all across the country trying to stop shenanigans, make sure things were being done right in the states. I mean, talk a little bit about sort of the difference maybe that you saw in 2020 versus 2024, and the emphasis that the RNC had on that, and how the coordination maybe with your state party on, how we made sure that things were being taken care of right away versus this, like where we're more on the offensive versus maybe the defensive. Can you comment on that at all?
Sure, because being on the offensive is the most important thing that we can do. We learned in 2020 in Nevada that there's not enough time post-election to put together a solid legal case and challenge anything that you feel might be wrong with the election. And we thought that there were things wrong with the election in 2020, but in a 3-week time period, you just don't have time to put that together. So it was super important that the RNC went on offense and filed, I think 136 is the number of cases that I saw that were filed in this cycle prior to the election. And some of those were won. I mentioned that we lost the cases on the postmarks and accepting ballots after Election Day in Nevada, but I know that the RNC won cases in Georgia and in Mississippi on those subjects. And so it makes a big difference to be able to hold people to the law and make sure that we're going to follow the law and follow it transparently. The other thing that in Nevada, we met every Wednesday morning with the RNC legal staff, with the Trump legal staff, state party, and everybody was all together on the same page with what was going on the ground and what did we need to be paying attention to, and what was the status of the lawsuits. And I'm sure that happened in every other battleground state, and I think that's a large part of why Trump was able to sweep all of those battleground states.
That's amazing. I didn't realize that you all had that close a coordination going on. Did you find too, I know, Segal's an attorney, and she has been very active in the election integrity end of things and has talked about a lot of the issues. Did you find this time around too, like more of your lawyers locally and in the state were more willing to get involved? I think what we saw in previous election cycles was everybody was scared to death to touch it, or they didn't necessarily believe these things were going on. Did you see more people coming forward from your state, from the legal perspective, wanting to be involved and wanting to make change and wanting to make sure the elections were free and fair? Did you all experience that, or maybe you didn't have that in the past? I simply don't know.
I think we had more excitement this year, but it was not that we didn't have excitement in the past. It wasn't a night and day shift. It was just an increase. It certainly has been very helpful having Seagal as the committee woman with her legal background. One of her nicknames is the Jew who saved Christmas because he sued our governor to reopen the Calvary Chapel and allow people to go to church during the pandemic. And so she worked very well with our chief counsel, Brian Hardy, here in the state. And they, between them, rounded up 131 attorneys to be on the ground throughout the election cycle, from early voting through election day, all the way through the counting of ballots after election day. And so to have that team on the ground, Brian told me that they handled 1,700 election integrity tickets that came in, people contacting our See Something, Say Something hotlines, and we're able to go through and make sure that those were resolved, that polling places closed when they should have closed, basically doing everything that we needed to do to make sure that every vote that was cast was properly counted.
So that's amazing. 131 attorneys. I know in Kentucky, kind of the same thing. We have attorneys on the ground on election day, ready to go to court if we need them to. And but that's amazing, the efforts that you all put forward to make sure everybody is working together. Can you comment a little bit, maybe? I know some outside partners helped us out quite a bit. We have the America PAC, Turning Point was involved. Can you just comment a little bit about maybe the difference you saw with efforts with all of us? You mentioned everybody working together and Republicans all sort of being on the same, or conservative groups all, working towards a common goal and coordinating. Can you maybe comment just a little bit about the importance of that, and maybe moving forward, how we continue this in states like Nevada, where we still have some change that we need to do, but that we're on the right track? How important do you feel like some of those outside groups and the coordination between all of us is in a state like yours?
I think those outside groups were absolutely critical to what we were able to do here in turning out those low propensity voters that everybody had targeted. Trump Force 47, certainly from the campaign and RNC side, definitely paid close attention to those low propensity voters. But Turning Point Action was super critical to that effort. That was also their focus, was those low propensity voters. And then it was nice to have groups like Americans for Prosperity, and then the America First from Elon Musk, his group, coming out. And there was a lot of times that we would go to a door and we would find that somebody from one of those other groups had been there. But I don't think that we left any doors unknocked, and it's not a bad thing, I think, for us to hit a door a couple of 3 times from different groups and give that message. And it certainly showed up in the results, because we turned out the voters, and the voters that we turned out, their votes counted. And so I think we need to continue that process going forward, work on that coordination, because those outside groups absolutely made the difference this year.
Yeah, I was thrilled to see Chairman Whatley and Co-Chair Trump really put an emphasis on, we're all going to work together, and every dollar is going to be spent to get out the vote and protect the vote, and everybody's going to be on the same page. And I think we really saw a difference with that, particularly in the swing states. You mentioned you've grown your party quite a bit since 2020. You've worked really hard. For people who might want to be involved in the Nevada Republican Party, how do you suggest they get involved? What can they do? Where can they go? How do they find out about you all?
The best place to go is right to our state party website. It's nevadagop.org. Nevada spelled out, GOP.org. And there's a click here to volunteer button right on the main page, and then we will get you plugged in with your local county party. We have 17 counties in Nevada, and every county has got an active Republican Party, and we can get people involved in their precinct work, and making sure that as we go into our legislative session, I don't know how you all do it in Kentucky, but here we have a legislative session every other year for 180 days. And so we think it would be nice, instead of 180 days every 2 years, if we could have a 2-day session every 180 years, but it doesn't seem to work.
Yeah, that would be nice, wouldn't it?
Yeah, but we do have a legislative session coming up this year in 2025, and we really need all hands on deck to make sure that we protect against some of the legislation that a Democrat-controlled legislature is going to try and put through. So
So it's important for people who are interested in I say all politics starts local, and I served on local government, and so I think what I hear you saying is you need all these volunteers to come help because you've got a pretty interesting legislative session coming up. So I would encourage anybody in Nevada to go to the website. And before I let you go, because I know you're heading to see family, and I appreciate you calling in through. I'll note you're not driving; you have a driver, but that you're on the road. Would you like to share with us your Twitter handle or any social media handles where people can find you?
I am not very much on social media myself, Casey. So,
Well, that is okay.
yeah.
That's okay. You
NV,
mentioned the
NV,
website.
NVGOP does have Twitter and Facebook under Nevada GOP or at NVGOP on Twitter.
So, since you are not that active, I'm going to have to get you connected. But also, then I always say that if I don't do it, then I don't see the bad things too. So
Right.
you can be blissfully unaware maybe and not have to watch yourself on a podcast. How's that?
Yeah, there you go.
No, I really appreciate your time today, Jim. Like I said, I know you were on the road and I know it was a lot for you to get on here, but truly, we are all so grateful for the work that you, Michael, and Segal did during this election cycle in delivering Nevada. I mean, it's so exciting to see President Trump naming his cabinet and making all of his appointments. And I think we're in for an exciting 4 years. And I know that the nation is truly thankful for the team that you guys have together there that helped us seal this victory. So thank you so much. And thank you for being here today.
Oh, you bet. Thanks for having me on, and thank you for everything the RNC did to assist us in Nevada. It was a team effort, and we all got it done.
Absolutely. Chairman Whatley and Laura Trump made sure that we had the resources and made it a priority to do it. So thank you again for your time, and you guys drive safely. Have fun with your family.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you. See ya. Thanks for joining us today. Tune in next week, as I'm sure we're going to have an exciting guest. You won't want to miss it. And remember, like, share, and subscribe if you enjoyed this podcast. See you next week.